If you've recently been in a car crash, stop. Before you settle with the insurance company, ask these 10 critical questions. These simple questions could be the difference between a small check and a life-changing settlement. Hi, I'm Marc Lopez, injury attorney in the great state of Indiana, and let's jump right on in. Number one, what are the insurance limits in this case? Insurance adjusters hate this question because it lets them know right off the bat that you are informed about maybe more than they're hoping you were. Insurance adjusters love dealing with unrepresented individuals because in their mind, it's going to be an easy day. They're going to pay way under value. They're going to get some kudos from their boss, and they're going to get a check mark on saving the company money by paying out as little as possible. So they're hoping you don't know about insurance limits, because as soon as you ask them that question, it lets them know that you know what you're talking about. And it lets them know immediately this is not going to be as easy as perhaps they were hoping. But also knowing the policy limits kind of knows what the maximum amount you can get. Yeah, there's some oddball situations you could exceed the policy limits, but it's very rare. So by you knowing what those limits are, you know the actual theoretical limit of what they could pay. Insurance adjusters hate sharing this information. They probably won't, even if you ask it, but they hate sharing it because they don't want you to think that you're going to be able to get that policy limit. They want to try to pay as little as possible. That's their job. Under Indiana law in many states, they have the absolute duty to pay the smallest amount possible to increase value for their shareholders. That's literally their job. So by asking that question, it lets them know that you're not going to be a pushover. And don't get upset if they don't tell you. They don't have to tell you under most circumstances until and unless a lawsuit's filed. But you're not asking that question to get the answer. If you do get the answer, that's awesome. You're asking that question to let them know you are informed and you're not going to be taken advantage of. Question number two, how much check writing authority do you have? Again, they may or may not answer this question, but again, you're asking it not necessarily because you want to know the answer. I mean, it would be nice if you did, but you're also letting them know that you're informed and not going to be taken advantage of. The person on the phone, they love to feel like they are in charge, and they oftentimes are, at least at this stage of the case, and they want you to have deference. They want you to believe that there's no one above them that can get you more money. Now, I don't encourage you to use this as your opening gambit. You don't want to sit there and be like, hey, I don't like you, I want your supervisor. That's not a good way to deal with these cases. But if you do reach a plateau and they're not increasing their offer, it might be a good time for you to ask, hey, what is your limits? Do you have any authority to go over what you've offered me? They may say yes, they may say no, they may not answer. But ultimately, you're letting them know that you are not satisfied with their offering, and knowledge is power. Don't ever forget that. If you are at a stalemate with the adjuster, this is a great question to ask, because then they may in fact hand your case over to someone with higher authority to them. I can't promise you that you're going to like that person any more than you like the person below you, but at least you know you're dealing with somebody that can actually make a difference. Question number three, what is the settlement reserve you've set aside for my case? Now, insurance companies, even though there's a policy limit and other factors going in there, they typically look at a case and they'll say, okay, we're going to hold back this much money. I don't know what it is. It's based on their computer algorithm, their past success, but they're going to hold back so much money to pay out your case. And the goal of the adjuster is to not come anywhere close to that amount of money, to pay less than whatever their arbitrary amount is. But by asking that question, it kind of gives them, again, another indicator that you're not someone that's going to roll over and be taken advantage of. Now, it's very often the insurance adjuster will not let you know what their reserve is because they don't want you to think that you can get that. They want you to think that you're only going to get a very, very small fraction of that. But again, we're not asking these questions so that we necessarily get the answer. We're asking these questions so the insurance adjuster knows you know what you're talking about and you know how to play ball. Question number four. Are there internal guidelines or formulas you're using to value my injury claim? Depending on the insurance company, they use software, one of which is Colossus. There's other softwares available as internal guidelines. And these computers basically look at medical records and they say, okay, based on this, this, and this, the claim is worth this much. The reserve is going to be here, and you need to pay less as possible, dear adjuster. Now, we're all human beings, and if we go to trial, well, it's not going to be Colossus testifying, we think this case is only worth. It's going to be a jury of your peers figuring out what the case is worth. So even though this computer system, these algorithms or past indicators, that's for those specific cases, not your case. Now, some adjusters may tell you, hey, we use software, we use AI, we use whatever. They may try to sound like, hey, listen, we take all the claims across the country and we know exactly what this type of case gets. All the claims across the country are not your claim. It's different for every single person. So asking them this question basically gets information from them. Say, how are you valuing this? Are you doing it based on claims out of California, claims out of Florida, claims out of Ohio, claims in northern Indiana, southern Indiana, Indianapolis, Hancock County? But we're trying to figure out how they are valuing this. And again, this question kind of puts the ball back into the insurance justice court saying, hey, listen, you guys are for profit, I get it, but don't let your computer algorithm undervalue my claim because I am different. So keep that in mind. Again, they may or may not tell you, that's okay. But what you're trying to do is let the insurance adjuster know you know what you're talking about. You're not going to be taken advantage of. Question number 5. Can you send me a written explanation of exactly how you calculated my claim value? Now, insurance adjusters don't necessarily like this question because, well, they prefer to keep things verbal. They prefer to keep things kind of vague so they can kind of go back and forth. And if they say, hey, well, you never got us physical therapy records, we can't offer you any more than, this. Okay, here's the physical therapy records. I want more money. Well, I never said I would give you more money. You never get. They hate putting things in writing. Now, I will say one of the things that we do at this law firm, we try to negotiate over the phone, but also we're doing big negotiations or even big negotiations for smaller cases. We love to email back, hey, what are you valuing this for? Why are you coming in so low here? Because I want to have written confirmation because I want to provide it to them and get back. Now, insurance companies may or may not tell you in writing exactly what's going on. They don't have to. Same way you don't have to tell them. But this is a kind of a cool thing because if they do keep raising the bar, you can only say, hey, listen, you told me X, now it's Y, so now I need things in writing. So if I get X and Y, you will offer more money or you will at least consider this claim for more money. So this kind of takes away some of that vagueness by putting things in writing. And I encourage you to ask them to do that, especially if you start talking hard numbers. Okay, you're offering this, this, and this because of here, this, and this. If I provide more information, will that change your offer? And they should say yes. They may say no. They may say, hey, listen, that's all there is. But try to get things in writing. And that takes away some of the power from them and makes the court a little bit even. I'm not necessarily saying it's going to make you more powerful, but having things in writing makes things more transparent. I love transparency. Question number 6. Have you reviewed my medical records yourself, or are you relying on summaries or computerized evaluations? Now, insurance adjusters, because they work for for-profit insurance companies, love to take shortcuts. They love to do things as fast as possible. So now we have AI, we have Colossus, other injury softwares, all basically feed the medical records in and they say, hey, based on X, Y, and Z, this case is worth this much, offer this much, and the reserves are this much. Now, when you ask them, hey, are you looking at it or are you relying on computerized evaluations? That's going to make them go, ooh, I better review this in person because I don't want a situation where they get more money than I've set the reserve for, and I didn't personally look at the records. I simply relied on a computer model or AI or some other software. Typically, when insurance adjusters thoroughly review the medical records, they thoroughly review what's going on, at least that gives them plausible deniability. If something goes wrong, you get way more money than they were expecting. And oftentimes, when they read these records, you become a human being to them. Not always, sometimes. And that will result in increased or perhaps more fair compensation. So asking that question lets them know that you know they are a for-profit, that you are a human being, and it's possible that their computer system is undervaluing your claim. Number 7. Now, this is not one I would use immediately. I would wait till negotiations have stagnated a little bit. We don't have to wait months or anything, but once you kind of feel out you got their top dollar, this is kind of one of those questions you would ask. It's probably not going to make you any friends, but number 7, how many times has your supervisor awarded a claimant more money than your final offer? What you're trying to do is let them know, hey, I'm not satisfied with what you're offering. I want more. And I'm going to ask for your supervisor at some point, are they going to give me more, or do you want to try to increase this between you and I, try to figure this out? Now, supervisors often will step in if a claim exceeds X amount or their litigation is threatened or something like that. Supervisors will step in and they do have higher settlement authority. Not always. And, it's important to understand if you do go to the next person, well, they probably got promoted for a reason. They're probably even better than the person underneath them at not paying out claims, but at least you get a fresh set of eyes and ears on the case. And you're probably not going to make any friends with the original adjuster, but asking them that at least lets the insurance adjuster know, hey, I'm not satisfied with this. I'm going to need more. Or I'm going to need to talk to somebody who has the authority for more. They may not give me more, but I want to at least have that chance. Question number 8. Does your insurance company typically increase offers after a lawsuit is filed? So insurance companies love to do 3 things: delay, deny, defend. And they're hoping to wear you down so you take their offer. But the reality is, if negotiations have gone to a stalemate in the United States of America, you can file a lawsuit and basically say, hey, listen, I'm not happy and I want to take legal grievance on this and take formal means to address this. Now, filing a lawsuit by itself doesn't automatically increase settlement offer, but again, you get a different set of eyes. You get a pre-litigation adjuster versus litigation adjuster and possibly an attorney who are reviewing these things, and they may see things that the original adjuster missed. So that's powerful to get a second set of eyes, and there may be some value for them saying, hey, listen, we'll throw a little bit more money on this to settle this case as opposed to spending hours and hours doing X, Y, and Z. Now be careful. A lot of insurance companies have in-house counsel and they deal with this stuff regardless. Insurance company isn't paying their in-house counsel by the hour. So in-house counsel is designed to deal with these type of things. But again, you're getting a fresh set of eyes on your case. And you may not like the answers, but at least you're having an opportunity to somebody else review things and possibly move things along. Lastly, for that question, insurance adjusters don't like it when things go to litigation because it's basically like an indicator they're not doing their job. Their job is to settle cases as cheaply as possible. Insurance adjusters hate when claimants file lawsuits simply because their job is to settle cases for as low amount as possible. When somebody files a lawsuit, that's basically indicative that, hey, you didn't do your job, Mr. Insurance Adjuster. The person is filing a lawsuit because you didn't offer enough money or you weren't able to successfully negotiate this claim. So it's kind of like a feedback instantly on that original adjuster. Most times, but not often, the adjuster changes once a lawsuit's been filed. But sometimes you got to deal with that first guy the entire time. So again, you don't have to agree with them. And remember, they're not your friend. You don't got to go out of your way to make enemies. Number 9, has your insurance company ever been penalized for bad faith settlement practices in the past? Now, this is a question that may or may not apply to your case, but by asking this is kind of one of those questions say, hey, I don't think you're treating me fairly. Has anybody else complained about you not treating me fairly? Now, bad faith is not available in all cases. Bad faith is not available in all states. In Indiana, it's limited availability. But again, we're simply letting the adjuster know you're not satisfied with how this case is going. This is one of those questions, again, it's not going to make you any friends. So I wouldn't start off with this one. This isn't the third phone call, first or second. This is something when you guys are going back and forth and nothing is working out. They're increasing their offer by $100, or they're not even increasing their offer, or they're not responding to your phone calls. But you want to ask this question, basically, this is not like the nuclear option, but it's kind of, again, hey, I'm not happy with you. They're going to know that. So it's going to be a different relationship after you ask this question. So don't ask this willy-nilly, but it lets them know that you're not satisfied and you're going to be likely going to the next step, which is litigation, filing a lawsuit. Again, don't ask that question unless you're prepared to go to the next step. But hopefully they hear that and they say, no, we're negotiating good faith, and they work out something where they can settle it. But again, this lets them know that you're not someone who's going to be taken advantage of. Question number 10, is there additional insurance coverage available, such as an umbrella policy or secondary policy? Insurance adjusters will never offer this information up because they're hoping you don't know what that is. They're hoping that you don't know there's an umbrella policy or a secondary policy. So these excess policies are basically coverage in addition to automobile insurance. Some people have these because they want to protect themselves from litigation if something terrible happens in a car crash. So there's umbrella policies, secondary policies, and typically they're all purchased through the same company, Allstate, State Farm, whatever. But the adjuster will never volunteer that. Oh yeah, hey, there's $1 million available. That's kind of the same reason they don't let you know what the policy limits are, and they don't like letting you know what the reserve limits are. But this is a powerful question because it basically says, hey, listen, we're nowhere even close settling this case with what you've offered. So I need you to find extra money. Now, they're under no obligation to answer this question. However, sometimes they do if there is insurance coverage available and there are some significant injuries. But don't get mad at them if they say, hey, listen, that's not your business. I don't got to tell you that. Because in some states, like Indiana, they don't have to tell you that until and unless a lawsuit's filed. So don't get mad at them. That's okay. They're just doing their job. Never going to get mad at someone for doing their job. We don't have to like it. We don't have to be mean to them, and we don't have to accept it. We're never going to get mad at someone for doing their job. But by asking this question, you're letting them know, hey, listen, we're nowhere close and probably looking to file a lawsuit. This should at least kind of give them a little incentive to offer you top dollar. Again, this is not a question you want to ask at the initial or even at the beginning. This is something you want to ask when there's a stalemate has been reached. Remember, in closing, the most important thing is insurance adjusters are not your friend. They are paid by the insurance company to pay as little as possible, and they've been trained to act friendly, so you think that they're your friend, but they're not. Now, here at the Marc Lopez Law Firm, we understand if you're in an accident, car crash, dog bite, slip and fall, you likely are dealing with a lot of craziness in addition to your normal life, and that's a lot of frustration. Allow the Marc Lopez Law Firm to turn that frustration into compensation. Give us a call, 317-632-3642.